Let's talk about what we are here for today. We are going to be talking with Mr. Rudy Ortiz on how to effectively communicate your organization's vision and mission. So, I want to tell you a little bit about Rudy and introduce him to you. Rudy Ortiz is a seasoned business management consultant with over 26 years of experience. His expertise spans finance, human resources, international business, marketing, operations, supply chain management, and technology commercialization. Throughout his career, Rudy has worked with federal and state economic development agencies, including the Small Business Development Centers and the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, supporting both small and medium sized businesses in their growth. Rudy has directly helped launch over 400 startups and support 1,200 companies with lifespans ranging from 4 to 50 plus years with revenues from zero to the billions. His consulting has facilitated tens of millions in financing for businesses across various industries. In addition to his consulting work, Rudy is an accomplished educator, having taught marketing, entrepreneurship, and business plan development at universities such as the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. And he holds a BBA in management and an MBA in international emphasis from Texas A&M in Corpus Christi. So, Rudy, welcome. I am so excited to have you here today. We've got such an important topic.
Thank you. It is.
I want to dive in. And first of all, I would like for you to tell our audience a little bit about why this topic of communicating an organization's mission and vision is just so meaningful to you. I think this will help us lay the groundwork for this conversation.
Yes, I think it will. So as it turns out, it is kind of a interesting and strange story. As it turns out, it comes from my interest comes from a dream that I had. As it turns out, usually when I wake up in the morning, I mean, within seconds, I have forgotten what it is that I was dreaming of. And I think a lot of people are like that. But in this particular case, my wife, Susan, was going to go to a meeting somewhat earlier than she would normally have a meeting. And as it turns out, her stirring caused me to suddenly wake up. And as a consequence of that, and as has happened to me in the past, I remembered the dream that I was having in its entirety, and it turned to be really an epiphany of what I had been dreaming about, and it has to do with leadership and mission and vision, and sometimes the blind spots that are developed as a consequence of not communicating those topics effectively. And so the dream went like this. I was in suddenly in this very large space, and the lights were very low, almost what you would call candle lit. And as I was looking around, I was seeing a bit of light here and a bit of light there and another light over here. And so I was very curious as to what that was. And and as it turns out, these were groups of people who were widely separated from each other. And
Mhm.
it came to me later on that this very low light was a symbolism for being kept in the dark.
Mm.
And as I walked up to the very first group of people, there was two or three people, and there was a very large, I should say, tall glass window pane, uh, probably 10 feet wide and about 20 feet tall. And it also came to me later on that this was what I'm calling a glass silo,
Mhm.
just as you hear of glass ceilings, which are somewhat transparent and difficult to see, but they are an obstacle just the same. The same thing with this glass silo. They're sometimes difficult to see, not obvious, but in fact act as obstacles. And so I walked up to the first group, and like I said, there was three people at around this desk, and they were talking and looking at something. And as it turns out, strangely enough, they either couldn't see me or at least paid no mind to me. But I think they just weren't able to see me, and so as a consequence of that, I was able to listen in on what they were talking about, and so I listened for a little while, and then walked off to quite some distance to the next one, and did the same thing. Listened to what they were saying. They also did not pay me any mind, and I did this for a couple of dozen of these groups that were once again very far away from each other. All of
Mhm.
them had this glass silo in front of them, small groups in the dark. Really, I'm not much more light than a candle would provide to in terms of lighting. And as I went from group to group, I came to realize that what this was a very large company that was, as it turns out, in trouble, very serious trouble, and as a matter of fact, at the point of disillusionment, of failing, but they had no idea that that was happening, and the reason for it was that each one of these groups were working on what was, what they thought their job was, with no consideration to what the mission and vision of the company was. And as a consequence of that, were in many cases not only not working optimally in terms of furthering the mission and vision of the company, but in many cases actually working diametrically opposed to the mission and vision of the company. And so, as a consequence of that, I became very interested in this topic of mission and vision, and why it is that in many cases the management does not effectively communicate those items. Now, I want to read very quickly here, just for the purpose of defining what a mission and vision
Mhm.
is. A mission statement describes an organization's current purpose, outlining what it does and who it serves, while a vision statement looks forward towards the future, defining the organization's aspirational goals and desired future state it wants to achieve. Essentially, the mission explains what the company does, and the vision outlines where the company wants to be in the future. So it's really
Mhm.
important to understand those two items, right? Because sometimes people they kind of cross purpose them, but that is really the technical definition for mission and vision. And once again, in this particular case, the top management were not effectively communicating to the middle management, who were not communicating to the lower
Mhm.
level people what the mission was, and most importantly, what each team's role was in the furthering of that mission and vision. And so, as a consequence of that, that's why they were either being very ineffective, or even worse, essentially sabotaging the company, because they were focused on what the metrics that they
Mhm.
felt they were responsible for, without taking any note and no alignment with the mission and vision of the company, because of this total lack of communication, effective communication with top management and all the management to their workers. And so
Mhm.
that is actually the drive behind my interest in this topic.
I love that so much, and I think we could spend a whole time talking about dreams and clarity, and just this whole concept, how it all came together. But we want to move on and really dive into this topic a little bit more. So I want to ask you, tell me, why do companies that are being merged or acquired tend to fail?
That's a great question. And as it turns out, if you look at the statistics, about 80% of the companies that are merged tend to either have limited success in what they were trying to accomplish. And usually, what they're trying to accomplish is to create synergies between the two companies, right? So
Mhm,
they either have very limited success in that, as it turns out, Hewlett Packard and Compaq are two really good examples. It took them several years after the merger to finally get it right because they had to do kind of a U-turn and undo things that
mhm,
they had done wrong at the beginning. Uh, or instead of just having limited success, sometimes they are outright failures like Time Warner and AOL. And
mhm,
in the case of both items, obviously these things are linked. Understanding the mission and vision is really critical to this, um, but also the clash of cultures, the fact that management did not take into consideration what needed to be done to try to create one culture, and basically there was a war between the two companies because of the clash of culture about how they did things. And so that is the reason, culture at the end of the day, and management's role in not understanding the importance of culture and how to try to develop a culture, is the reason that about 80% of the mergers either have limited success or outright failure.
very interesting. So you would almost think that before before they actually bring this together, those are things that they really need to address as to what is going to be our vision for the long term, what's going to be the mission, how are we going to make these two cultures work together, and those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, and whether they can, because it may very well be that uh, while there may be technical reasons why they might want to bring these two companies together to develop synergies, it could very well be that the cultures are so different
Mm,
that they really, in effect, can't be brought together. They certainly don't take, management certainly does not take the culture of the other company in mind. They think that once they merge, everybody will be one big happy family, and it does not work that way. They need to make accommodations. In some cases, it may very well be just like the Hathaway guys um, do. They merge with or they buy a very profitable company. Obviously, they've been doing some things right, and they basically let them run with with more money and guidance from the larger company, from the acquirer, so that there isn't this clash of cultures.
mhm,
That's one of the reasons that Berkshire Hathaway is such a successful investment group, is because they understand these issues of culture, and that trying to merge these two companies together may be extremely difficult, may take a very long time. And once again, if something's working, then let's continue going with that with some
mhm,
tweaks, right? As opposed to a complete overhaul of the acquired
mhm.
company.
Sure, sure. Let's talk about a little bit about what management's role is in those failures.
Well, in my view, it's almost totally top management's fault. Once
Mhm,
again, they either did not give enough guidance to their vice presidents, or whoever is in effect taking control of the company, the day-to-day operations. Those people don't necessarily have the right understanding of some of these issues, and at fault also, but once again due to upper management. um, HR in many cases think that their job is to put butts in seats, as opposed to the right butts in seats. Well, what does
mm,
that mean? It primarily means making sure not that they not only have the correct technical skills, but they will be a good fit to the culture. Now, in order for our HR to be able to do a better job, it needs to understand what the mission and vision is, and not just what you see on paper,
Mhm.
but really effectively what is it that we're trying to accomplish.
Mm.
And once again, management in many cases, sometimes it's upper management, many times it's middle management. They say, well, we don't need to tell them that. That's just common sense. Well, that isn't the case, right? It definitely isn't necessarily common sense. We do need to communicate with every employee, those that are within our company and those that we're trying to bring into the company, to make sure that they are a good fit. And so that's, at the end of the day, that's really the issue, is the ineffective communication of what the company stands for, who its clients are, where we're trying to go from a visionary perspective. I mean, you would hope that when you bring in either another company via a merger or acquisition, or when you bring even an employee, that that the purpose of that is to further the mission and vision of the company. But if that is not communicated very clearly, not as platitudes, but from a practical perspective, you know
Mhm.
this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, and help the company, the acquired company, or the employee, to understand what their role is in furthering the mission and the vision of the company, and making sure that both the company and or the employee are aligned, that they
Mhm.
actually can be aligned, that they want to be aligned, because that is not always the case. Sometimes it's a hostile takeover, right? In essence, in terms of the people, not necessarily in terms of the person who owned the company and sold it to
Mhm.
Berkshire Hathaway or whoever, but in terms of the employees, because at the end of the day, the employees will make you or break you,
Mm.
and that is
So
something
true.
that and that is something that a lot of people in management really do not seem to understand, that at the end of the day, it is the employees that will make you or break you. We take the example, you know, uh, like in banks, tellers, just as an example.
Mhm.
I mean, some of them, in terms of the effect, some of the most important employees you can have, because they are at the front line, and they are the ones that have the face to face and the interaction, and provide the service and the experience to the clients. I mean, when I go to a bank, I don't really care who the CEO is of the company. I mean, what I care about is the experience that I have with the teller that I'm talking to, whether she's effectively communicating with me, her attitude, in terms of her technical skills to be able to make the transaction that I'm asking him or her to make. That's what I care about, and they are usually one of the very lowest paid people
Mhm.
in the entire banking organization, which is really counterproductive, because once again, management does not understand that the people are what make or break the company. And so that's my view on that.
It's so true. It's so true. And I have said this before, way back from my staffing and recruiting days. Your employees are truly your biggest asset. And you may have $1 million equipment, but without the right employees running it, you have nothing. And there's just so many opportunities for them to go elsewhere if you're not taking care and you're not communicating. And I was thinking as you were speaking how well this topic ties into what Jennifer and I talked about last week with the building of trust and connection. By
Absolutely.
getting that buy-in, explaining, like you said, they may not want to be aligned. So how am I going to make that happen? How am I going to make them feel like, hey, this is my idea and this is how I can not just come to work and collect a paycheck, but I can come to work and make a difference for my company, for my coworkers, for my customers, whatever it may be. And like you were saying with the tellers, I have worked that job. It can be a thankless job. And I could just think how much better it would have been to have managers that really communicated very well in that and set the examples. And in some of those situations, I had an excellent manager that could do that. And some, it was like, oh, can't wait to get home, punch out and get home.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
in many cases, the companies make the mistake in terms of middle management. So, you're working at a manufacturing company, X, it doesn't make a difference what it is, and the person is a really good machinist, plumber, whatever the job is, and so because he's a very good machinist or plumber or X, they're going to make him the manager over a group of people. And that hardly ever works out because in most cases, those people certainly don't have the training,
Mhm.
and often don't have the temperament. I'll give an example. So as it turns out, there's a company that I'm aware of. We'll leave out the names. 1 month, they hired 400 people, and within 30 days, 300 of those 400 people left.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, that should tell
That's
you
so
something,
expensive.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that should tell you something, and as a consequence of that, that tells you that there's a really, really serious problem, if nothing else, in the selection process, and many, many times the selection process is, do they have a heartbeat?
Mhm.
And that, y- y- given what you said a little earlier, and that is that employees are the greatest asset of a company, and they are. One should take much more care at selecting the right people, not just
Mhm.
somebody who can fill the seat, but the right person, to make sure that they are aligned, that they do have buy-in, that they fully understand the mission and vision of the company, and that they want to work for your company. They don't want a job. They don't want a job like this one. They want to work for
Mhm.
you.
So
Uh,
good.
yeah, Southwest Airlines has historically,
Mhm.
for every 2,000 jobs that they've had positions for, they've had 100,000 applications.
Mm.
I mean, that's a really good thing, isn't it? To have 100,000 people want to work for you.
Yes, yes. So good, so good. This is such a good segue into our next question. And what I want to talk about is how important it is for prospective managers, because this is going to be these people that are my audience that are considering, contemplating making a job move, or maybe are in the process. So let's talk a little bit about, for prospective management, um, that may be interviewing for a company, to understand that company's mission and vision, their culture. Um, I really would like to kind of dive into recommendations for them, how they can better understand it, where they can learn about it, what they should be asking. Help us out.
Yeah, interestingly enough, somebody called me just yesterday with that very question. So I think I have a decent answer. Obviously, you know, assuming that the company is a company that's more astute than many other companies, they're going to ask you questions. I mean, I have an HR background as well, and the fact that if you are asking questions about the company, and also are already informed about what the company's stated mission and vision is, two things. First of all, it may very well be that when you review the mission and vision of the company, that you say, it's just not for me, and that's
Mhm,
okay. That's a mistake you didn't make, right? Because you wouldn't have been a good fit, and probably would not have done particularly well in that company, probably been unhappy and moved on later on. And so I think that it is critically important for every person, and especially managers, to understand the mission and vision of the company, try to see if in fact they have buy-in, whether they're whether they are aligned with the mission and vision of the company before they make a decision about
Mhm.
interviewing for the company, and also asking any questions that might have need some additional clarification. But the very
Mhm.
fact that you would talk to the company and say, so I understand that your mission and vision is X, Y, and Z, and I really value that. I really value your mission and vision. I'm aligned with your mission and vision. Well, that alone is going to bump you up in the view
Mm.
of the recruiter, of the interviewer. The fact that you took the time to look at the mission and vision, and that you're stating categorically that you are aligned with that. I mean, hopefully the HR person has some understanding of how important that is, and right off the bat, at least mentally, you're going to go at a higher level than somebody who doesn't ask any questions. You have to
Mhm.
tell them about the vision and mission of the company. You're not asking any questions about that, for whether it's clarification questions, and certainly not stating that you have an alignment when Bob or Sally just finished telling you that they did,
Mhm.
that they were aligned with those things. It's going to add points to your interview outlook.
Absolutely. And I think the higher level of a candidate you are, and by that I mean mid, senior, or executive, that has got to be, because it's just kind of like we were talking about. I mean, these things are coming from management on down, the higher the management. So having that real clear understanding and buy-in, and these are just important questions that you should be asking yourself before you even interview. And if you can't find anything in your research, that should be some of your very first questions, is to tell me more about the company's mission and vision,
Yeah,
and allow that to guide you into even further questions as
yeah.
well.
And while in many cases, maybe small companies will not have a stated mission or vision on their website, maybe.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that by doing enough research on the company, you can gather some of those things. But definitely, if a company does not have a stated mission or vision, well, first of all, I think that's kind of, tells you something. Uh, what it might tell you is one thing or another, but the fact that they doesn't have one might tell you a little bit about the level of sophistication of the company and their own strategic understanding of what they're about.
Hmm.
Okay, but certainly, I would be asking. I mean, if they don't have a stated mission or vision, I would be asking them those kinds of questions. If nothing else, it might prompt the company to realize that those are important things. That good
Hmm.
employees, top employees, will be interested in that topic, to make sure that they in fact are aligned with those topics, and so consequently asking about the mission and vision, whether stated or unstated, is critically important. If in fact you are aligned and have buy-in to the vision and mission, state that you are. Once again, I think that that's going to stand you out from the rest of the applicants.
Yeah, yeah. Well, move a little further. Let's talk about why employees tend to more focus on what they are measured, like the metrics of their success, instead of the mission and vision of the company. And not just, I mean, obviously, I mean, I feel like that's kind of a leading question. Really and truly, what can we do to have a little bit of both, where they understand how that ties into the mission and vision as well? I mean, I think both things, measurements, are important
For
there.
sure. Now, when you say we, are you talking about management, or are you talking about the potential employee? or
Well,
employee?
I think really both,
Okay,
I think your employees need to understand what they are going to be measured on, but they need to understand how those measurements tie in. I feel like I'm
absolutely.
trying to answer your question, so you go
No,
ahead.
no, it's actually a great question. I just want to clarify, who the subject was. I think it's absolutely natural, that and expected that I'm going to want to know, I as an employee, want to know what I'm being measured on, because and especially at the lower levels, where I'm getting a wage, or maybe a salary. I want to make sure that I'm fulfilling that criteria, so
Mhm,
that I will have good reviews and get raises and all of that. But a critical piece of this, and this is where management misses the point, and that is that nexus between understanding what you're being evaluated on, and the mission and vision and the alignment, and making sure that those things that you're doing not only are you know what you're supposed to be doing, but are they aligned with the vision and mission. The vision and mission, in many ways, is sort of like a north star. And
mhm,
that is, if the company is going in a certain direction, you can always look up in the North Star to make sure to get your bearings right, and to make
mhm,
sure that what you're doing, the direction that you're taking, the direction you're about to take, is in fact still heading true north.
mhm,
Okay. And so it may very well be that, because the mission and vision hasn't been made clear to you, maybe you didn't ask enough questions about it, for whatever reason, it's not clear to you. You have these very, very narrow parameters that you've put on yourself, saying, if I do these 5 things or these 10 things, then I'm going to have a good evaluation. And of course, the sophistication of the employee has some impact in that. No question about that. But if management can convey effectively that the mission and the vision of the company and the employees' alignment with those are the true north, the
mhm,
North Star. That they can never go wrong, because sometimes, just like in my dream, people were doing things not because they were trying to sabotage the company, but because even though they sort of knew, apparently, what they were being evaluated on, the direction that each group was taking was in fact not in alignment with the mission and vision, i.e., with True North. And as it turns out, it may have taken some time before one could see that what they were doing was off track. But had
mhm,
they understood truly and been in alignment with True North, with the mission and vision, then it is highly unlikely that they would have taken actions that were in misalignment with the mission and vision of the company. You don't go off track with one or two steps. It's one step after another, right?
mhm.
And once you start taking a particular direction and you keep going in that direction, it could take you way, way off. All right.
Right.
But it starts, this misdirection uh, uh, starts with one step, and it would be a lot easier to not take that misdirection if you were always understood what the mission and vision of the company was, and that you were aligned and thinking about whether this work that you're doing, the steps that you're thinking of taking, this direction that you're thinking of moving towards, is in fact in alignment with the mission and vision of the company. But once again, that's not up to the employees to define what their mission and vision is. That
Mhm,
is management's role to do that, and to communicate it effectively to every employee. And I really want to emphasize that, not just top management to middle management, but to every employee. And
mhm,
once again, that misdirection, that taking the wrong step part, often happens at middle management, because those people are not necessarily, once again, getting back to my machinist example, HR and those sort of strategic and tactical decisions are not something that they're trained in. They're usually not provided any training
Mhm.
of any sort having to do with how to manage people, how to communicate with them. Often they are not well suited to those kinds of activities, and a lot of times that's where the misstep first start to happening, is
Mhm.
the fact that middle management does not communicate to the employees what the mission and vision is, and what each individual's alignment process is for making sure that they stay on course. And we have
Right.
and we have many examples throughout history of in essence top management and middle management, they themselves not understanding what the what was and this is really important, what mission critical, mission important, and mission useful. Those are terms that I use to try to identify the degree of usefulness and importance and criticality. Mission
Mhm.
critical means, in every company there are one or two things that you have to get right. You
Mhm.
have to nail down, and if you don't nail down those one or two things, the company will fail. Okay, that's what mission critical means, is that you have to do these one or two things, otherwise the company will fail. Then you have mission important. These are things that if you get wrong, they may not kill you, but they will hurt you significantly. And if you make enough of these mission important mistakes, they could kill the company.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you have mission useful, and it basically just says, just as it says, it's useful, but it certainly is not important in terms of the way I defined it, and it certainly is not critical in the way that I defined it. And so these are things that management, both top management and middle management, uh, either don't understand, certainly do not effectively communicate to their uh, lower management. And I'm talking about from the C level down to their
Mhm.
vice presidents. I mean, even of very large organizations, to vice president of very substantial departments, on down to their middle management, and on down all the way to their employees. These are concepts that, for whatever reason, are not on the radar of many companies, even very large companies. The understanding of mission critical, mission important, and mission useful. In many cases, employees and middle management focus on mission important. Okay, uh, without any thought or view of how they fit, whether they're mission important or not. I mean, that's not even on their radar. The concept of mission
Mhm.
important, mission critical is not on their radar at all.
Wow.
All they focus on is mission useful, and completely miss out, do all the tactical things and all this and the strategic things that will get you completely misaligned with true north, with what the mission and vision of the
Mm.
company really is, because they're focusing on small tactical issues and not strategic issues.
Oh, wow. Yeah, good point. Yeah, definitely. And I think so many times we tend to look at a mission and vision as, okay, I've got one. Let's check that off our list,
Exactly.
and let's go make, a profit. And you kind of forget, going back to that, really the business, this is part of the holistic um, health of the business. It's not just, oh, this is a cute, fluffy thing to have, that we should have, and we've done that, and we sat around and
Yeah.
brainstormed. Now
That
we're all going to go back and do our own job. But really and truly, I feel like when you look at the companies that are known for having a great company culture, my guess is everybody understands the mission and vision of
That is
that
correct.
as well. And company culture, I think, has gotten the reputation of being that we have a game room and we have a cafeteria and everybody can go and have an open bar after work and those kinds of things. And sure, that's fun and everything great, but it's not necessarily, I don't think you have to spend money on all of that to have a wonderful, healthy company if you foster the right culture. And again, you do that by knowing what that North Star is, what's guiding you, and making sure everybody's on the same page. Because I can think of myself as a business owner, how many times did I go, they should know that. That's common sense, just like you said earlier. I mean, why wouldn't you know that? And that's almost an offensive thing to say to someone because then you're effectively saying, well, I think you're stupid because that was common sense. And I will confess, I've made that mistake, and then I
Everyone
felt like
has.
a heel afterwards. When I realized how that hurt the the employee and my relationship with her.
Yeah, and you used a term just a second ago that I thought was cute and informative as well. That it's fluff. Well, mission useful is sort of fluff. It's kind of like the game room
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
coffee and the free donuts and whatnot. They focus on the wrong things. And once again, throughout history, we're almost out of time, I think, and so I can't go into it, but there are lots and lots of past and current historical events that have occurred where people, organizations of every sort, companies, government, military, they focused on the wrong things instead of focusing on mission critical and mission important areas. They focused their attention on mission useful. And once again, without any true north, without understanding what true north is, without looking and paying attention that you're staying on true north and that you in fact are fulfilling the mission and vision of the organization, whatever it might be, you're going to get off track and you're going to make disastrous, I'll repeat, disastrous
Mhm.
mistakes.
Absolutely. This conversation could definitely go another 15, 20, 45 minutes because there's so much that we could be said. I would love to like sit down and talk about some examples of that and examples of really companies that are doing it right. And, those ones, like you said, the Southwest Airlines that have hundreds of thousands of applicants, people wanting to work for their company. And that's when you know that you're doing something right. But we don't have time for that. So, what I want to ask you next is where and how can people get in touch with you if they would like to do so? Um,
Sure, I can provide you with my email address. I don't know whether that's something that you can type in and show it to them, but I will just verbalize it as well. My email is Rudy Rudy at S as in Sam, B as in boy, S as in Sam, which stands for Strategic Business Services, the name of my company. So it's
mhm.
SBS and then dash, that little line in between, and then West, like the direction, WEST.com. So the whole thing is Rudy at SBS-West.com.
Oops. All right. I just put that in the comments. So very good. Looks like there we go.
And you can
And
also
let me
find me
just,
on LinkedIn. Just look for Rudy Ortiz. Look for the bald-headed guy, and uh, obviously I'm situated in Arkansas in the USA. And I say that because there's probably a lot of people who might be on this stream that are from elsewhere. But you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Rudy
I'm
Ortiz,
gonna,
Ortiz.
I'm gonna toss that one in here as well. I just Copied and pasted that. There we go. Okay, there we go. So y'all can go and connect with Rudy on LinkedIn for sure and email him if you have additional questions. I just checked. I don't have any questions for us today. But again, you guys that are catching this on the replay, be sure to use hashtag replay. Also, if you have questions, if you will tag me in that, I get notifications and we'll make sure that we get answers as well. So I am so grateful for you being here, Rudy. We have covered a
My
lot of
pleasure.
great information. Would love to know everyone's takeaway. You can let us know that in the comments as well. And before we sign off, if you are searching for your next job, I get that that can feel really overwhelming. So please don't go at it alone. My team and I are here to help you. If you're a mid, senior, or executive level professional, we can help you craft that custom resume. We can guide you through the job search process and interview process, help you with these questions that we talked about today, like knowing the mission and vision and those types of things that you might not have thought of if you weren't fully prepared. So reach out to us to book your complimentary consultation, and I will throw that here in the chat as well. And I think I have a fancy little banner with that on there. Let's see, I think that's it. But yes, so reach out to us. We are happy to help you. And we will be back next Wednesday at 12:30 Central Standard Time. Bethany Wallace will be joining us. You may have tried to tune into her a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know what happened. We had some fluky technical issue that has never happened in a year of doing these things. Never happened to me. Bethany was able to join. I wasn't. And so she has graciously agreed to reschedule next Wednesday. We're going to be talking about conflict management, which I think is a great segue from this topic. And Bethany is quite knowledgeable in that as well. So join us, and y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.